Guys, just before we get started, if you're loving the podcast, can you please go leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, and please make sure that you subscribe on whatever channel that you listen to us on. It helps us out dramatically.
We employed these fabulous people. They are entrusted with so much information on a day-to-day basis. They are entrusted with millions of dollars of budgets. They are entrusted with making really big decisions. We entrust them with our numbers. We entrust them that they absolutely understand what the P&L is looking like. Mm-hmm. We entrust them with the strategy. We entrust them with knowledge. You've got to do that because people then feel like, oh, the organisation cares about me. They take the time to communicate. I know where I fit in this. At the end of the day, my job is to trust and inspire.
What it really means to live life golden. Yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden. They're about to see us shine, 'cause we're golden. Down, 'cause we're golden. They're about to see us glow, 'cause we're golden. Yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden. They're about to see us shine, 'cause we're golden. They can't ever break us down, 'cause we're golden.
Al, welcome to the podcast once again.
I know, how lucky I am to be back for a second time.
Second time. Well, we were just talking about off air how with your previous episode, it's still our best performing, right?
No pressure.
No pressure. No, but the interesting thing is like in the game, in this game of like building this kind of channel and this as a media channel is very much about followings, and this is how social media works. And it's when I say that, I mean you get someone on and they might have a big following, and then that's how we can grow our following, and then that's how it happens. But with yourself, obviously we talked, in terms of being active, like you obviously are active, but it's not something that you focus on. Obviously because of, your personal Instagram and everything that you have going on, right? But for, there's another side to this where it's about the actual conversations that you're having. And I think it was just a testament to yourself of like, obviously you've been doing what you're doing for a very long time, and have so much wisdom and experience, but for it to be the best performing, and I think it just speaks to that conversation. Even for me, like last time I remember like leaving the conversation, and obviously Braden was on with us last time, and we kind of looked at each other and just thought, wow, we knew that was going to be amazing, but the TikTok, the TikTok 1.2 million views, 20, I think it's up to 22,000 shares. So, unbelievable. But how could we not get you back on after that?
Thank you.
But I mean, look, it's been nearly a year, so there's a lot that's happened, and pretty excited to kind of get into that, with you and have a bit of a chat. So we might start with, what's it been like coming out of COVID, for Country Road, and obviously managing the business, and obviously there's a new set of challenges.
Yeah, I think first of all, Carl, what I'd love to do is just acknowledge my team. I've got to say, I get the pleasure to work with phenomenal individuals every single day. And I'm really a representation of them today. So what I share is the great work that my team have done. We got through a pandemic. I think to the retail teams, the way that they've had to, open and close stores at a minute's notice was, incredibly challenging. We've had all different types of shipping issues. But I suppose we're at a different phase now, aren't we? I mean, it felt like we're in this big dipper, and I suppose right now we're kind of feeling like it's a bit of the scenic railway, on a Saturday night. It's a little bit more like this now, because I think we could all look back and go, wow, we all survived it. But I think right now we've got to thrive. So we've really got to shift our mindset to thriving now, because I think you can only be in survival mode for so long, and it is about how we all thrive going together. So really when we think about what the future is about, or what right now is about, I think it's for us settling our teams down and settling them in. There's certainly embracing hybrid ways of working, and we hear about that all the time, and it's such an easy word to say, but in practice, when you have got 200 team members in an office, and then you've also got a retail workforce as well too. What does hybrid mean, particularly for a retail workforce? And so for a kind of a support centre, it's a little bit easier, but it does mean that you do have to review the way that you're meeting. And I do think that hybrid ways of working starts at the top. And I certainly embrace hybrid ways of working. I think that I'm a better leader for it. Did I believe that it could have been possible? 3 years ago, absolutely not, Carl. I was not that person, but certainly embracing that with all of the teams. And I think that that's a wonderful thing about leadership, isn't it? You're always learning. You're always learning something from your teams. And so for me, I think, knowing that our teams are so passionate and committed, and that you trust that within your teams is really, really quite heartfelt for me. So really nailing down, the hybrid ways of working. I think customers are really coming back into our store environments now, and we're seeing that in footfall. We're also seeing, I'm going to say, a return to kind of a local shopping as well too, and nothing better for strip stores now. We went through a period where it was all about the shopping centre, but now we're seeing greater demands on these local neighbourhoods. So how wonderful is that for local business, local restaurants, local coffee shops, to actually have people coming back into their local areas? So I think that that's great. But then there's also many challenges. I mean, you just have to pick up the paper, and the media just loves doom and gloom, and sometimes sensationalising everything. And that will weigh down on the way people feel, because we've just come out of this pandemic, we were feeling pretty good, and now, there's all conversations that they're having about the economy, about electricity. So I think we do have to be mindful of the negativity and the impact that has on people, particularly from a mental health perspective. So in my mind right now, challenges, of course, are economic challenges. We're also seeing a lot of sickness. We're not winter fit.
Yeah, literally. We were just talking about it.
Melburnians are really, really, but actually we're not winter fit at all. So we are seeing an increase in illness with our teams, which then places greater demand on the teams that are left. Because they have to pick up, the work that's not being done. And some team members can be out for, 4 days, 5 days, which is quite a significant amount of time. So we're just kind of monitoring that and just trying to understand it more. And then, of course, I think, one of the challenges that we face, regardless of COVID or not, is the environmental impact that as a fashion industry, we really need to make greater gains on. And that is from a sustainability perspective and also from an ethical perspective as well too. So certainly as an organisation, that is our laser focus, bringing our teams back into, back out of COVID, into hybrid ways of working, understanding what's getting in the way, understanding the ways of working, and just removing pain points for people. I think people are less tolerant now. They really want to come to an organisation and they want things to work well. And I think that we've got to make sure that we're unpacking that for our people. And then it's really about, just making sure that we are doing the right thing and fast-tracking the environmental piece for us.
What's changed, from a management perspective then? So managing, if we're combining those two things together, there's obviously a different work, a work style now where we are talking about hybrid, and previously it was in the office 5 days a week, then it went to not in the office at all, and now we're kind of coming back to hybrid. But then also, we really are going through a period of time which I think, I'm young and I haven't seen it before. I've only been in business for 10 years, but I haven't seen it around talent and what they're demanding from the organisation, in the current state. So what's changing in management styles then, do you think, you've obviously you would have went away and thought, what conversations do I need to have with my leaders and, our managers, and, how is this changing?
Yeah, I think the most important aspect of leadership is to listen and to really make sure that you've got a really strong feedback loop coming back into your organisation at all levels of the organisation, all different teams within the organisation. And when you are listening in non-judgment, what's really being said? Yeah, what are they really asking for? So I think that to develop that, to not have preconceived ideas, and to understand why that issue is important for that group or for the business, I think is really, really important. So I think that what we try and do is always understand the person, what's happening for that person, and then the impact that has within the team, and then what problem are we trying to solve. Ultimately, we want to be a great place to work. That's what we want to do. So what's getting in the way? And I do think that we are still coming back from COVID. I think that I think we're still trying to get back into a rhythm, albeit a new rhythm. But I have noticed that in the last 2 years, people have put their careers on hold. They've stayed within the security of an organisation, but now they're saying, hang on a minute, my career, I've lost 2 years of it. What do I need to do to fast track my career? What do I need to learn? So I think that we really do need to think about what training and development programs we're putting into place. What does succession planning actually look like in an organisation? Because they're the questions that are really coming up now, particularly if I was in my late 20s, early 30s.
What's actually changed? Do you think it's changed, like from before pre-COVID, or do you think do you just think that people? It's more of like.
I think the other thing to note too is there seems to be a shortage of skill. So organisations, all different retail organisations are growing. They're wanting great people, and they're certainly now looking for great talent out there. And that's happening in the market. So I do think that it's a hot market at the moment. People want great talent, and people are prepared to move as well too. So I think we need to take all of that into consideration, and people's careers have been put on hold for 2 years. So there's this real hunger and desire to really fast track your career, to do more, to hurry up and move on, to get another title perhaps on your CV.
So interesting that it seems as though there's a premium on talent right now, and that's you mentioned it before, but you kind of mix that with the supply shock that we have, where there's not, like you said, there's not enough supply of that skill, and people, like the leverage is in favour of the individual, right? Where, and they're noticing this, and like you said, that they're wanting to move, they're wanting to get active, they're wanting to progress because they have this sense of, hey, like I have missed out on the last 2 years.
And I think, Carl, that's where it's really important for a business to be able to grow and expand and accelerate. And that's where we're fortunate with Country Road, is that we are a brand that is growing. So for you to be able to grow as an organisation, you need to have the great talent behind you, and you need to have those succession plans in place so if somebody can actually see that this is a growing business and I've got somewhere to grow in the organisation. I think if you're a business that was stagnant or on the decline, I think that there would be a rapid, exit of really great talent. So I think that this is a really pivotal point in an organisation. So yes, I'm prepared to go and, because I want that next title, but I also want to make sure that it's a great company to work for. And I think that this is also, over the last 2 years, you can see the organisations that have got great cultures versus those that haven't. And that's where the EVP is also in the hybrid ways of working. But actually, hybrid ways of working are a great way to work because it actually makes everyone a lot happier. It shouldn't even be an EVP. It just really should be a way of working now.
It's so interesting. I mean, my ears prick up when you kind of talk about these things, and I often think back to or even the way I'm thinking of it right now is obviously you want to be in a growing company and you want to see the opportunities that are going to be there, and I think you mix that with great culture, and that's where you can be an accelerant of someone's career, and that's the company that is going to attract the talent.
Absolutely, Carl. And I think it's also what we're investing in. I look at the senior leaders that report into me, and they've been on an 18-month leadership development program because that when you've got that strength in leadership, and then it's all about then the leadership development underneath them, and underneath them, they're going to have that same development mindset. And we think that that's really important. I mean, the great thing about business is that you need great people, don't you? So developing those around you and under you is going to be really critical.
So it sounds like Country Road places massive importance on developing their people. And I'm thinking just more for, say, a small business owner. And we just talked about it. How do you attract talent to your startup or your business? How important is that to Country Road, and how much do you put into that? That development, like you said, 12-month leadership programs, and you're doing this kind of stuff for your people.
Yeah, I think a lot of things were put on hold over COVID. Yeah, so but it was a very specific program that I knew the leadership team needed to go on, particularly when we thought about what we've got ahead of us, and the focus that we have in our business at the moment is on then what does first line leadership look like? So if I've been appointed into a manager role, what does that development journey look like for me? So that is something that we're investing in as a business, and then we're also investing in value-based leadership. And how do you communicate to different types of people? So, and then there's also presentation skills that some of our team members also want to learn. So, when you're looking at a growth business and then you're looking at your people and the skills that they need, then you're saying to yourself, okay, this is now how we need to invest to make sure that we do have that talent, that right skilled talent, and that's what we're prepared to invest in, because we would far prefer to succession plan from within than bring external people into our organisation.
Amazing. That's all just kind of just piecing it together in my head. And so there was two other challenges that you mentioned. The first one was economic, and part of me says there's still a bit of that to come. And navigating that. At the moment, obviously, we've gone through dramatic change in the economy over the last 3 years. And then I'd love for you to also touch on the environmental factor as well, because I feel like that is, it was almost like 5 years ago that was almost like a value proposition, and now it's just an absolute necessity across the board.
Yeah. Well, I think with the economic challenges, we're certainly seeing those shipping challenges coming out of, China. We're certainly seeing the cost of raw materials go up. So it doesn't matter where on your P&L, you're just seeing cost increases. It'll be rent increases, employment increases. Training and development is also an investment into the business. So the cost challenges are real. But I think the work that we've been doing with the brand and the quality of the brand and what it represents in market, and just making sure that we're really true to that. So we've got a great brand, a great business, a great product proposition. We understand that there's supply challenges here. We understand that there's cost impacts. Some of that we need to absorb because you can't pass everything on. And that's just what we have to do as a business. But we've also a business that understands where we're going to be in 5 years' time. And sometimes you have to take a bit of a hit. Yep. And you understand what that hit is. Where do you want to take the hit? What are you prepared to sacrifice with that hit? And say, well, that's actually just the cost of this year. But, in 2 years and 3 years, this is actually where we're going here. Because, sometimes those hits are also investments.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
To be able to grow. Yeah, and that's that kind of magical point that we're at the moment.
What's the time? So what's the time horizon then? Because you 3-5 years, we're always thinking about that. What's the time horizon for the decision making around P&L challenges? What do we absorb? Because I feel that's that's a very hard. The greater the scale of the organisation, I could understand that is going to be something that is a pure focus, and maybe sometimes not as well. But what's the time horizon, and how important is that into decision making?
Well, we have our financial plan is out to FY27, so we're in financial year 22 at the moment. We're about to go into 23, but we have a financial plan to 27. The reason why that's important is because it allows us, and when I talk about us, I'm talking about the leadership team and our other teams. It just allows us to think about where are we taking this business and being really strategic with that. Who are the partnerships? What does our distribution look like? What does our supply chain look like? So there are very big decisions that we've got to make over time. What does our digital offering look like? So that all takes time. So that's why we've got to plan that out to that FY27 year. We're virtually signed off the FY23 year, and I'm already starting to work on FY24. So at least 2 years out. And that just helped. And so we work 2 years out, but we're working every week. So every day the sales come in. Every week, we're seeing our results. Every month we're seeing the P&L. And is it a confirmation of what we're projecting out, or do we need to divert, change? What do we need to do to make sure that we're on course? Yep. So always having that view, that vision, where you're going is so important because it allows us to understand whether we're on track or not. And and that's the best way that that we're managing and leading our business.
And that's how you know what to absorb, right? That's how you can make these big, bold decisions that probably need to happen, because you're so you're able to see you're able to look at that horizon and say, all right, we might have to go a little bit to the left or change something a tiny bit or absorb this cost or... Absolutely,
take a hit here, but we know that that's really important because of actually where we're going and we're considered about that.
Yeah.
It's when you don't, it's when you're kind of going rudderless and you kind of don't know where you're going that you're making really erratic decisions. So that's just not who we are as an organisation or a brand. We're very focused. And I think it allows for greater conversation. There's nothing better for our teams to be involved in visionary conversations about the business.
Yeah, 100%. And then you mentioned it, and you guys are leaders in certain areas, and we're going to talk about the environmental side of things, and that's obviously something that you guys are very passionate about and care very much about. But it's not easy. It's not it's not an easy thing to do, and especially coming out of what we've just come out of, and we're talking about obviously you just mentioned shipping challenges and so on, and so what we've just talked about there around projecting forward, looking as far into the future as we possibly can without getting too far and lost, but there's also this thing over here that you really care about that's really challenging, and from a logistical perspective, but you really care about it. So, and then there's brand building and what do we want to, how do we want to, what do we want the society to associate with us as well? So, you can see how, like your role is basically piecing all this together and then navigating, through a lot of those challenges.
And I think it starts with a vision. I mean, what are you here to do? And so for us, we want to be a world-leading Australian, lifestyle brand. We want to be a world-leading responsible Australian lifestyle brand, So when you are a world-leading responsible Australian brand, what does that actually mean? When you cut down every single one of those words and then you pull out responsible. So responsible for us is actually what we have to do. It's our being, it's our how. And that's why visions are really important, because it gives everyone alignment. And then you go, well, if that's really important, what does that actually mean for us? And I think what I've loved about, the last, 4 years of my journey with Country Road is because of that word, responsible. We've been able to build a sustainability team within our brand. We get to work with phenomenal industrial engineers, incredible designers that are doing some fantastic things around repurposing, recycling, reusing waste. And when you have a creative team that are curious and you have these really fabulous small-scale businesses that want to partner and we're really intrigued by, and we go out and visit and we understand, we go, okay, how can we actually work with you? What could this look like? And we're prepared to wait 2 years. So there's quite a few things in the pipeline that we've been working on for the last 2 years that are not in market, but that's the investment that we believe is really important. And that's what inspires teams. And that's why our teams love, working for the brand, because they get to work with really interesting people and businesses. And we can work from a small scale to large scale. So I think that's part of, I think that's been part of my, I really love seeing innovation. And, as you know, the Chadstone 5-star Green Star store was just the start of that for us. But more importantly, that we actually talk about who the designer is, who the actual company is that actually made those products, who made the yogurt tables, because we actually want to share that knowledge because we think it's really important. So if Country Road is a leading brand, how does it lead in that sustainability narrative and that responsibility narrative as well too? And then the magic with that is also the supply base that we also work with. You would be amazed at the sophistication of some of these suppliers that we work with and what they're actually doing within their own organisations and their factories and manufacturing, with the way that they look at water and make sure that they're not wasting any water, and what they're doing for their employees. An example for us was how, we posed a question, and the question was, we make a lot of heritage sweats. It's our number one selling item. I'm sure, Kyle, you've seen our heritage sweat. With
a few, definitely.
You've seen it, yeah. You've probably got a few as well too. But with that sweat, and there's a pattern. There is some waste that's applied with that. How can we be responsible for the waste from that sweat? And so that was a question that we posed. And for 18 months, we actually worked with our vendor on what can we actually do with that waste. And so they, through all of their technology and all of their, their association, said this is what we can do. We can actually reuse the waste. We can actually then use a level of virgin cotton back in with it. Yep. Retwist it, re-yarn it, and actually then use it for the heritage sweat for another sweat program. So, that's what I mean. This journey of being responsible is just forever evolving. But it is around who you've got around with you, who you've got with you, and the time that you're willing to take to make sure that you do it well and you do it the right way. And of course, we've already launched that program, and it is more expensive, Carl.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting when I read some comments. People go, "Well, it should be cheaper." It's actually not cheaper. It's actually more expensive to do that because of the technology that it takes. What we've got to just make sure is that it's a beautiful product and that it's highly desirable. But it actually is going to cost more. But that's what we've decided to invest in.
That's the investment.
That's the investment. And so that small thought, which is it's a big thought and big idea, has then made us just rethink, okay, then what does it then mean for other waste? And that is a journey that we're on right now. How do we reduce our waste? How do we reuse waste where we're not always having to create new materials all the time? Yeah. So that's quite big for us at the moment. I think the other part for us is is a relationship that we have with Oratane, as you know. That relationship was one around transparency, and what you will see and how you'll see our brand over time is that we intend to be more and more transparent. Actually want to tell you our story. We actually want to tell you where that came from, how it was made, who made it. And, yes, there are companies that do that, but on a very limited scale. We have, over 1,200 styles that we, deliver every 6 months. That's a lot of different products. So we absolutely have the right intent to work with our vendors on how we do become, more transparent, and that's the relationship we have with Oratane. We wanted to make sure that the Australian cotton that's in that sweat that we say it is actually is Australian cotton. And I think the story that we did test the grey marl, and the grey marl, didn't show up well. And so we had to work with the vendor to say, hey, what's actually happened with the grey marl here? But that's our commitment to transparency. We want to make sure that what we're saying to you is actually what you're getting. And so that's been another really interesting part of our journey.
So I guess the question that I have around that is, because it's amazing, and as we said, it's an investment. But the question I would just pose there is more from, like, if you're someone who, someone's listening to this and they really want to come on this journey and they want to implement these kind of strategies, these bold strategies within their organization. What are the strategies that you use as a leader to keep that front of center and front of mind? Because I feel like that is a very difficult thing to do, and what I mean by that is, like, it's, it might not just be the environmental side. Let's say it's any type of concept that we're trying to bring in and we want to champion this. What are the strategies that you use to get the whole company involved?
Yeah.
Is it company workshop days? Is it bringing people in to do talks? Like, what are the things that you guys do to obviously get everybody involved and get that alignment that you were talking about?
That's a good question. I would say that, well, I think the vision is very important that we have. When it comes to sustainability, we've also got a purpose there. So I think when the strategy makes sense, people go, okay, I get this. Yeah, I get the why.
Yeah.
So I think we've been very good at explaining the why.
Yeah.
And I think we take a lot of time to explain that. So as an example, I catch up with store managers, every 6 months, and I take them through the strategy of the business. We start with the vision, our purpose, our mantras, our belief system, and all the strategic pillars in the business, of which there are always 5. Yep. And so those 5 don't really change. They're the same 5 pillars. There might be a slight word change. The what we're doing underneath might change, but the 5 key pillars are the same key pillars. So that consistency is important. So we always have a growth mindset. We're a growing organisation. We've got a strong vision around who we want to be. We've got a very strong purpose, and we've got 5 key strategic pillars. And then it's about communicating that to the teams.
Yeah, okay.
And if anything, as a leader, it's really important to be consistent. It's really important to, at any chance you have, to relate it back to strategy. So the reason why we're doing this is, the reason why I said that is this. Yep. And then also, how do you celebrate it? So when you're having wins...
Yeah, okay. So
when you're having wins, and that's what we do, we have what we call a monthly huddle. And that is where we present the P&L every single month, so the team can actually see the profit and loss of the business, and they can understand the how. They can actually see the results and how it's actually all coming together.
We're not just working for the sake of working. We're actually going, no. Like, we've got this vision, we've got this purpose. This is really what we're trying to do. And hey, your actions are. This is what the result is.
Yep, and we disclose that. I think it's really important to disclose that. You know what? People feel really trusted. And then on a Monday morning, we've also got another huddle, and we talk about sales, and we talk about what worked and what didn't work. So people go, okay, I know where this business is at. I know my role in this business. I know why we're making the decisions that we're making, and I know how I fit.
Guys, if you're loving this episode, make sure to take a screenshot, give us a tag, or even take a photo if you're watching it. Give us a tag, help spread the love. It helps us out dramatically. Guys, I've owned businesses now for 10 years, and let me tell you, it is hard enough as it is. Business insurance is just one of those things you don't want to have to worry about. I've been with BizCover now for 6 years, and they make it seamless. No hassle, no paperwork, and you can get insured instantly. So it's tax time. Do yourself a favor, go see if you can save some money and get a better deal. You want to trust the person next to you. You want to trust the leader in front of you. You want
Absolutely.
And that's the key to. I mean, you could, as I said, it's making sense that's the key as to how you build a great organisation. Is that everybody trusts each other.
We employed these fabulous people. They are entrusted with so much information on a day-to-day basis. They are entrusted with millions of dollars of budgets. They are entrusted with making really big decisions. We entrust them with our numbers. We entrust them that they absolutely understand what the P&L is looking like. Mm-hmm. We entrust them with the strategy. We entrust them with knowledge. You've got to do that. Because people then feel like, oh, the organisation cares about me. They, you know, they take the time to communicate. I know where I fit in this.
There's a sense of responsibility there as well that people love to grab. I feel like, you know, I'm actually driving this now. I'm partly responsible, and I think that's really important. Like, you know, the growth in any individual. You know, we talked about this. You know. With your daughter and what she's doing on camp, and it's a sense of responsibility, but it's the same thing, you know. Like, I look at the times that I've grown in life, and it's probably when I needed to take responsibility for whatever part of my life that was, and that sense of responsibility helped me step up, and you could see how that there's a translation there into business and hiring talent and everything we've been talking about over the last 30 minutes.
You know, at the end of the day, my job is to trust and inspire. That's my job, you know, and through trust is all those things we just spoke about, inspiring about where we're going as an organisation, and to look up to. That's really important to me. And then, as you just said, Carl, you know, to empower. If you've got the right people on your team, you see it. You see it when you give team members the opportunity of either projects or solving problems or coming up with ideas, or even being involved in strategy day. So at our strategy workshop, it's just not the leadership team.
Everyone.
It's those really key, you know, decision makers in our organisation that are really clever, that, you know, are these really fabulous. They're the next us. So they should be involved in these forums. And do you know how, I mean, they absolutely step up, they present to us, they're involved in conversations, because they're the ones owning it, and they're going to be the future of the organisation. And so that's part of my role, is to make sure that I leave the logo in a better place. So the only way I'm going to do that is through making sure that I've got great people around me, and for the organisation in time to come.
Wow, it all makes sense. Wrapping all that together, I think that's amazing, and I think there's a lot of insight there as well. You know, for people that, obviously listening to this, wanting to learn as well. I
mean, what's the worst thing that could happen? I mean, when you really think about it, when you think about, you know, because I know that some people, you show sales. Yeah, of course we do. Well, so what's the worst thing that could happen from that? There's not much. But sometimes we get so concerned about holding on to information and not sharing information because we just don't know where that information is going to go. Well, who cares where it goes? You know, at the end of the day, it's actually going to the individuals, and 99% of the time it's actually used in the right way. And imagine the organisation flourishing that way.
I think as well, everybody being on the same page.
Absolutely.
Is just critical.
Yeah.
You can see how important that is. And you know, it's the trust piece, right? It's the kind of trust piece that we talked about. If you're not willing to show it, you'd probably have to take a look inside and maybe go, well, why aren't we willing to show this?
Yeah,
what are we hiding? Yeah. What are they? What's that? You know, like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Yeah. I would love for you to tell us about the Our World campaign and go into that and share a little bit of information about that.
So the Our World campaign, well, really, it is that pillar of our good business journey. It is about delivering to being, you know, a world-leading responsible Australian lifestyle brand. And we have key strategic pillars once again underneath that, around circularity, around transparency, around our relationship with Oratane, of course, which is part of the, you know, the transparency piece. But we also, you know, as we're working through this, we then think about, well, we work with incredible cotton farmers in Australia, and what would it look like if we actually had a biodiversity project underway, where we help to rejuvenate the land, and that's a $600,000 investment that we've made with Landcare, of how we can actually work with farming families, and once again we've been able to really make a difference on those farms and for those families as well, and I think that that's part of giving back, isn't it? To the soil, giving back and saying thank you and helping our farmers. So that's a very important project that we're, is well and truly underway. We're working with 3 farmers now. And then also the work that we do when we think about our world around reconciliation. We're about to, go through the Reconciliation Action Plan process. We're going through that at the moment. We work with Darwin Aboriginal Art Fair Foundation. We sponsor NEFA, a country to couture. So that's been incredibly inspiring for the business as well too. We're working on our acknowledgement of country to make sure that that's embedded through the organisation. And very importantly, we make sure that we have a platform, or Country Road is a platform, for First Nations voices, for stories to be told, about educating, about being inspiring. So that is well and truly underway, and that is part of, as I said, our world. So it's the work that we do with Red Cross, with all of the, with Country Road garments that somebody may not love anymore and, wants to donate, and then that goes to Red Cross, and then that raises money. We've raised, over $750,000, for different organisations. So when you think about our world, it's all-encompassing. And I've got a great team that are working through, each of those opportunities. But the one that's really close to my heart will always be around how we repurpose, how we recycle, how we reuse waste. And I think that that's a really important next phase for us as an organisation that you'll start seeing.
So what inspired all of this? Because obviously there was a point in time where the company said, all right, we're going to lead this, we're going to take this, and these are the things we care about, and this is where we're going. But what was the process to get to that point where we could make that decision?
Yeah, well, first of all, being under WHL.
Yeah.
So WHL want to make sure that their business, we are actually we're world-leading responsible retailers. That's very important for the group. So working for a group that already has that mindset and that belief system has actually made it really, I'm going to say, really pretty easy for us to actually go, okay, this is what we really believe in, this is what we want to go with. So I think that that's first of all important, that you've got that very high, that we've got that support. Well, once you have that support, it was then an ambition that we started with one ambition, and I think that that's it. I think it's an evolutionary process. Yeah. So we started with an ambition, and that is that we wanted to have one sustainable attribute in every product that we produced. And so that's what we all started working towards. And as we were starting to work towards that, we started having a relationship with Australian cotton farmers. And as we were working with Australian cotton farmers, we wanted to make sure that, that what we were saying in our garments was, and then we started working with Oratane. Yeah. And then as we were working with the merino wool farmers and the cotton farmers and actually going out to the farms and, and our team have just been to Cotton Camp as well too, then we started learning a little bit more about the land. And through our relationship with, Darwin Aboriginal Art Fair Foundation and the work that we're doing with our RAP, we started thinking about the land and, and First Nations knowledge of the land. And so what does that mean for us and where should we participate there? And so therefore, of course, we had the relationship with Landcare. So and then it can be as something like, one of our homeware designers, Bill, he watched an ABC program, and there was this great guy that was doing, making out of bread clips, these beautiful bowls. And Bill came into the business and he said, hey, this guy is doing some really interesting things. He's in Robe in South Australia. We said, great, go and meet him. And so he got on a plane, went to Robe, met the guy, and of course we started ranging, those bowls. And so from that bread clip conversation, then we started thinking about, well then, what does that mean for other waste? So having WHL, an intent, a purpose, something small that we started with, now how that's just resonated through the business and now who we're working with and the partnerships that we have. And we're still evolving, we're still learning, and I can't wait to think about what we can do next. And then, of course, once you start working on that, then you go, what about the stores that we're building? How could we build, a 5-star store? What would that actually look like? So
I think it highlights the importance of the things you've just said, vision, purpose. It all starts with a vision. It starts with a purpose. We don't know where we're going to be. We don't know how it's going to happen. But, hey, if we're all on the bus and we're ready to go, we can make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So interesting. So we're going to, I guess, a little bit of a pivot in the conversation now. And I'd love to, obviously, you're a leader in fashion. Country Road is a leader in fashion. But for small businesses now, what are some of the things that you think can bring them success? Fashion businesses over this, the next 5 years. What are the things that you would advise? In terms of saying, look, these are the things that we think can really help bring success to not only to the industry but also to startups and so on.
I love niche businesses. I love businesses in the fashion industry that have really found their niche, their soul and what they're good at. I love Mr. Winston. I just think that's...
Mr. Winston?
Yeah, I think that's a fabulous business model. Oh, my kids are obsessed with that brand. Oh, my gosh. And my younger one, she's 12. I mean, she is on that side, just waiting for the countdown.
When are they releasing?
And so I look at that and I go, that's just a wonderful concept, So, but it's fabulous. It's they've just got the right level of fashionability. Their graphic treatment is fantastic. I love the way they shoot it, and they're really clever with social media.
Yeah.
Yep. So I love that. The other one that I really love is Poppy Lisserman. I love what she does with her bags. She's about really cool crossbody bags with her brand, and also other little bags as well too. And she's all about colour and fabric. And that's what she's really great at. And the quirk as to how she produces that, how she shoots it, how she promotes it on social media, there's just a great niche. And then I've got to take my hat off to, Glam Corner. When you think about, what they've done is that they've seen an opportunity in the market that wasn't there. They really thought about, hiring, and hiring of garments and, and why do you need to buy and, how can they solve the waste issue? And I think that's it. They solved a problem. How do we rethink waste? And so that's, of course, when they came up with Glam Corner and hiring out their garments. And I look at that niche and I go, that's just so clever. And so they've all had a purpose. They've all found their niche. They've used social media in a really clever way. And they've just been really true to who they are. And I think that that's really important for any startup. Don't try and be someone else. Just be yourself. Really utilise the power of social media. I mean, it's just phenomenal, some of the smaller brands that are coming up these days purely based on a social media following. So I think that that's what's about. There are so many fashion brands out there. But what are you truly passionate about? And what problem are you solving?
It's it's that authenticity around that problem, absolutely, isn't it? Like, don't start a business for the sake of it and just go and copy. Like, you got to really be passionate about what you're doing, and it's like, you're not trying to manufacture the differentiation because you're already different. Just what are you passionate about? What's the problem you want to solve? And then it's the same vision, purpose. Yeah. Figure out how do we solve this.
I mean, I love Effie Katz. I love what she does, on social media. How she's that ambassador, and just how the regularity of posting and how good and how consistent she looks. So, it's that niche, but they're very clear on their purpose. They're very clear on their vision. They're very clear on their style. And when that clarity comes through a level of confidence, that people just want to buy into. Mm-hmm. So that's probably what I would encourage.
Yeah, that's something, conversations I've been having as well around that is that authenticity piece. It seems, especially with the power of social media, and if you think about that and you think about, it's such a beast. Like, you know, we have to put so much effort into working. It sounds like, you know, it sounds minor, but it's working the algorithm without it going away from who we are and what we're trying to do, you know, like trying to find these different things that work. And I just think it's like, but it's so much easier when you know who you are and you know what you're about. And that kind of rings true with what we're talking about.
And you know in your gut. You do. You just got to listen to it and follow it.
Yeah. So obviously, you know, when it comes to managing staff, you go through difficult moments. As I said, I don't want to say difficult staff. I know it's a problem that exists, but how do you manage that you know, that moment, or, you know, that relationship when maybe we aren't on the same page and things aren't working out, or how do we create change, you know, in that relationship to kind of to make sure we can move forward? Or is there a point where it's like, well, this just isn't working?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, first of all, just to when you do see that change of behaviour, what I like to do first of all is just kind of sit back and just kind of, what is it? I got up today and didn't have a good day. You know, I just split up with my boyfriend. I always just like to kind of go, what's the pattern here? Mm-hmm. So that's first and foremost, because everyone can have a bad day or a bad week. Yeah. Once you can see that there's a regularity of pattern, I think the most important thing you can do is just try to understand why. I don't think anybody comes to work to deliberately be difficult. I'd like to think that. I think that we have lives. Our lives are very complex. There's a lot of conflicting priorities within our lives. And nowadays, you bring your life to work. Mm-hmm. Yep. The old, you know, you used to leave it at the door, but now, you know, but that's a great thing, because it's really nice that people bring their whole selves to work. So if you want people to bring their whole selves to work, you know, we are sometimes going to go through these, you know, these conditions. I know that this is going to sound really simplistic, but the most important thing to ask someone is, are they okay? That's the most important thing. Are you okay? Yep, I've noticed this. Just talk to me. What's going on for you? And I find that when you do that, 9 times out of 10, somebody will say, hey, you know what, this is what's going on for me. And then that opens up the conversation to say, okay, so that might be going on for you. Probably the way it's just showing up at the moment is this. Are you aware of that? Yeah. So I think what's really important is don't assume. Understand that they're a person. We have lives. They're very complex. Make sure they're okay. And be gentle there. And let them just know kind of how it's showing up. And maybe what you'd like to see, or maybe when do they think they're going to be back on track. So I think that there can be those conversations. The more complex, difficult conversations, they require a bit. That actually requires that as base camp, Carl. And then when you don't see the change, then there are more serious conversations to be had. I think it's so important in a culture, within a culture of an organisation, that once you start having those problems, and they do happen, you know, that you get onto them as quickly as you possibly can.
Is there a relationship there with performance? Like,
absolutely, there is.
Yeah.
Well, it'll either be they're great at their job, but they're not great with people and the teams around them. And so if you want to be really great in our organisation, you have to be great at your job and great with people. So that's sometimes where I see that difference. I might be really good at my job, but I'm really not great at communicating. I'm really not nice to be around. I'll do everything last minute, and then that'll impact the person next to me and the workload onto somebody else. Mm-hmm. So when those kind of behaviours are happening, it's first of all just making sure that the person's aware of it. They may or may not be, and then what do they need? They might be actually really poor with time management. Okay, no problem. What problem do we need to solve here for you so you actually are better at time management? Yep. So there's only going to be 3 issues. It's always people, process, or structure.
People, process, structure.
That's it. That's what we always come down to. Is this a people issue? Yep. Is it a process issue, or is it a structural issue?
So when you say, I understand process people, what's structure? Like what is that relating to?
So it could be the way that we're structured as an organisation. So do we have, and normally for me, structure is probably the last one that I touch.
Yeah.
Yep. But actually, is there something that I'm not doing right because I don't know the job that I have to do? Is it behavioural, or is it because I'm just not clear on my accountability? I'm actually not clear because I don't have a job description. I'm not clear because somebody didn't tell me to do that. And if that person is great culturally and they know what they're doing, but there still seems to be a problem, then is it a process issue?
Okay.
Do we not have the right processes? Do we not have the right meetings set up in our business to actually make that person successful?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then if we do have the right people and we do have the right process, then structurally as a business, are we right? Do we have enough team members? Do we have enough people to support that person?
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So it's like, maybe the workload's too big.
Correct,
and
exactly
we have
right.
to bring people in,
Absolutely.
assistants,
Yep,
and so
yep,
on.
whatever that might look like. Should that person actually be reporting to that person, or does it make more sense actually for them to report into this person? Do they have too many direct reports? Yep. So that's why, if you ever come to me with a problem, that's probably where we'll start. We'll actually start with the person first and work our way through that.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. I haven't heard that before, which I find it's a great filter, isn't it? To, like as a leader, to be able to have those conversations, and you're not going to directly say that, but you're going to tick them off in the background and just say, hey,
And in the last 12 months, we've had it all.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and we have restructured our business because we could see that there were process and structural issues. There was a part of our business which you went, these are incredible team members, right? Great team. Why are we a little dysfunctional here? Why are we not working the way that we should be? And then you go, great. Okay, we've actually got a process issue here. Then when we started unpacking that, we said, actually, we're structured not correctly. So we've done a huge piece of work, restructuring ourselves and getting the right processes in. Happy team.
Yeah, so we're taking the problem through that filter.
Always through that filter.
Amazing. And so we've talked about talent, and there's a premium on talent right now. You got to be doing amazing things to keep your talent and attract talent. But when is there and this is a hard question, but it's, when we're talking about the attributes that you are looking at in, say, someone, whether you're, maybe it's not necessarily just about bringing talent in, but it's also about giving talent a greater opportunity. Like maybe, okay, we're looking for someone in a leadership role. Is there an attribute that you really look for, or a few there that you're like, not skill, but attribute in a person?
They have to be hungry, they have to be smart, and they have to be humble. And the humility in that is that they understand that they have learning gaps and they're able to articulate that.
And so when you're, that's obviously being communicated across the company when people are hiring, but that's something you're directly looking for.
It's a question. It's always a question. It doesn't matter who I'm hiring. It doesn't matter if I'm hiring somebody reporting into me, or through the organisation. But, tell us in your current role, what are the gaps in your learning? Where do you think, where do you think your learning gaps are? If you came into our organisation, where do you think the gaps would be as we've talked you through this role and what you're doing today? Where could those gaps be so we could support you more? Really interesting.
That's such an interesting thing. I mean, even myself personally, I don't have as much experience, right? But when you're going through that hiring process, asking the right questions is critical, and I've been through it where it's like, oh, that went really well, and then it's like, that didn't go really well, and obviously you have a standardized kind of set of questions and stuff like that, but I mean, are you asking questions around those three H's that you just mentioned?
Whenever, first of all, and I've had it just recently where I have interviewed someone. We did it over a couple of days, and the first day, for the first hour when I met this person, all I wanted to understand was them. Didn't ask them anything about the business that they work for. I just wanted to understand who they were. So all of my questioning was about who they were as a person. Because the most important thing for me is, can we actually get along culturally? Are we aligned? Are our values aligned? Will we actually work together well? So that was the first part. And then the second part, of course, is then around the questions around ability. And part of that is, you know, you've read the job description, you understand the role, we've talked it through. Now talk to me about where do you think those gaps might be for you? Because it's really important for me as your leader, to understand that and to support you. Where could that be for you? What do we need to put around you? Who do we need to put around you?
Yeah, I mean, I've always found, and I think that's one of the most, especially early on, like, you know, in a small business or an organisation, I feel like once you've got the experience there and you've got to be able to read people, because, you know, sometimes people tell you what you want to hear. And
that's why you can throw them off guard a bit when you say something like that, because they're all, and then, let's read through that again together, you know. So I always find that quite interesting. Or come back to me. If you don't have, just come back to me and you know, we'll just pick up this conversation again. Maybe just have a bit of a think about that one.
Yeah, yeah. And so what have you changed your mind on? Or something? What's something you've changed your mind on as it relates to, leadership, say, you know, over the last 2 to 3 years?
I don't think everyone makes a great manager. I don't think everyone can lead. I used to think that they could.
Really?
I used to think that everybody could be a great manager, and I don't. And I think that there are some people incapable of managing.
Okay, so can we unpack that a little bit? Because that's big. Well, that's an unpopular opinion, right? Like, you know, like that's you know, it's going to make people think a little bit, but
it depends.
I want to ask this. I do want to ask this. So what are we looking for in someone that can't lead or can't manage?
This is what I think. I think sometimes we make decisions to promote people because they're really great at their job. They're really great at their skill. They're exceptional at their skill. And we put them into a management role. But not everybody loves people. Not everybody shows empathy. Not everybody cares. Not everybody wants to see others grow and flourish. Not everybody actually feels comfortable having one-on-one time with people. So I think we've got to be really careful who we put into management roles, because there are people out there that, are great at what they do, but that's actually what they do really well. And then you complicate it by putting people issues in, because as soon as you're managing a team, you're managing people issues. Yep, you're managing people's lives, and they're bringing it to work every day. And if you want to be a great manager, then you've got to care about that. Yep. You've got to keep your team engaged. You've got to be great at communication. You've got to keep people informed. You've got to be able to listen. You've got to be able to care, genuinely care. If you want to be a good manager.
Skill set too, isn't it? It's so different to just being a technician and being like, I'm doing this. I know it's such a different skill set, and you have to have emotional intelligence. You have to be able to, okay, this person's come in. It's not, you know, like we talked about it before, then, you know, there's something, you know, maybe they're a little bit off and it's not, you know, dig in a little bit more. The technician in you says, well, why aren't they doing that properly? Come on, like this is not...
It's the critic. The critic in you says that. Exactly right. But then that's what I'm saying. We can put anybody into a management role, but it doesn't mean that everybody succeeds in that management role. Worse still, the team underneath don't succeed because of the decision that you've made to put somebody into that role. So that's a big change for me.
So the last thing the last question I have for you before we dive into quickfire, which quickfire is, you know, quickfire. You were in that. You've been there. Day in the life. What's it look like? You know, like. So what do you, you know? Because I'm interested in this because you know, like, I'm looking to fulfill the managing director role, the CEO role in my company, and it's going to be a bit different, right? But like, you know, I'm really interested. How do you? What does your day include? How do you manage your day? Like,
I just looked at Amber just then, my EA, and she just started she just started laughing here. I think the first thing is, Country Road is my life.
Yeah.
Like, I love what I do every single day and night. And I'm obsessed by it. So,
because we talked about this last time, and one thing you did say was, I remember this so, succinctly in my mind, and I was like, so what about outside of work, or like what and it was a question like that, and you said, no, it was kind of more around who are you outside of work, and you kind of come back to me and said, I'm the same person, whether I'm at work, whether I'm at home. And there was this obsession there that I could see around not purely work. Like, obviously that's there. That's why you're in the role you're in, but more around who you are as a person and what you do for people. So, that's something
so I'd probably say that my day is different every single day. But my day is full of people. My day is full of people conversations, because once you have a vision and a strategy and a roadmap, then the role I play is just making sure that we're all aligned to that, and what we're doing every single day is based on that.
Yeah.
So I need to make sure we're not getting distractions. Yep, I need to make sure we're focused. I need to make sure that the team are engaged. I need to make sure that we're delivering what we said we would. But all of that means that my whole day is full of conversations. So there is not a gap in the day. I think Amber's laughing because, until I don't think you can see me until, I don't know, maybe October. But it is just full of, I'm going to say meetings, but they're actually, they're time that I've got to spend with different teams, to deliver what we've got to as our goals. It's time that I need to spend with my exco as well too, who are my team, as part of the Country Road Group. Yep. So it's the investment that I need to make with my other managing directors as well. So, being a managing director is, it's a great responsibility to have, and I suppose I cherish, every meeting that I have, whether they be external meetings, internal, but they're all very focused on what we've got to deliver on, and I don't like distractions at all. Because you can just start to spin plates and get people to spin plates, and then we all feel a bit chaotic. So we've just got to be really, really disciplined with our time and how we're spending our time and who we're spending our time with. But I would also hope to think that I inspire in those meetings as well too.
Yeah. So it's a lot of people management. It's about overarching strategy, vision, purpose, and then people. These are my people.
Absolutely.
These are the teams we're working with. This is their responsibility. Yep. How are they performing? Are they okay?
Yeah, what problems are we trying to solve? How do you need me to actually solve that problem? Or are you okay? You got this. Who's our next hypos in our business? And what about then the ones underneath them? And what are we doing for those? So it's many different kind of views. It's a today view, it's a tomorrow view, it's your team view, it's setting the brand up for success and the business up for success. It's worrying about my leadership team and making sure they're, got the support that they need.
Wow. So that's what I got to do, is it? I'm up for the fight. We're going to dive into quick fire now. So I do have to preface this, but I think you nailed it last time. But it's not short answers. Like I had it's funny, Kevin. I had Kevin on, right?
Yes.
and he's he kind of sat down. He's like, "Oh, what's a podcast? Like, what am I doing here?" And then it was like, he did like this 5-word answer, and I'm like, Kevin, like, you need to get a bit more here, you know what I mean? But he just didn't so you don't feel like there's no cap on your answer. You can say whatever you want to say. One piece of advice for your younger self.
Get rid of the naysayers and just surround yourself with great people, really good people that really support you, will tell you the honest truth, who will just stick by you through thick and thin. They're the ones that are going to be there tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that, and just get rid of those negative people in your life, because it's unhealthy to have that negativity in your life.
Yeah. That's it's such a difficult thing to do. I think the first time you do it, so it's one of those things that I'm thinking about someone who's I did it, going through my 20s. You commit to something like a business, or something of that nature, a career, and then it's okay. Well, now you start to realize that there's sacrifice that has to come with that, and then that a lot of that is the people you spend, because you might have this. I look back and I think there's people I've spent the last 10 years and built my life around that now I can't be, and all of a sudden you go through somewhat of an identity crisis because you do have to start spending more of your time with other people, and
you do.
It's not,
and you're evolving as well too, Carl. I think that's the most important thing. With what you just said, it just means that you've got this incredible life ahead of you, that you're evolving and you're showing greater interest or more interest into other people as well. And that's okay, because those other people have been with you since, your early 20s, will always be with you if you want them to be. Yep.
Okay, so what advice do you have then for people that feel bad for doing that?
What, for letting go of people that...
Yeah, because that's it. I can almost guarantee, right, that I have these conversations with people all the time, and you're evolving, and then people start to feel bad. They have this voice inside of them. I feel bad for doing this, for sacrificing my time with this person, or even though it's not healthy for me.
Well, here you go. This is it, Carl. This is our life. The greatest lesson in my life is my dad. My dad's 97. I see him every Friday night. My dad made decisions in his life because of other people. Didn't follow through on something. Didn't live out his great ambition, Was too worried about what somebody would say or think. And so at times decided not to do those things because of those people. Where do you think those people are, Carl? They're not around. And I can say that because and I sit and I watch, speak to my dad, and that's the greatest lesson that he's taught me, is that this is it. Yep. And it's lovely that we have that empathy. I'd probably go, why do you feel that you need to give them up? If you're giving them up, having negative people in your life are actually going to hold you back. And it's not good for you. It's actually not good for your health. It's not good for you. And when time's ticking... When you're sitting there in your chair and you're looking back, who are you really going to be thinking about? Who do you want in your life?
Life goes quick.
Life goes very quick, Carl. Goes very quick.
That's so true. Time is that's the human deficiency. We're not good with time.
That's all we have.
That's all we have. It's the most important thing, isn't it?
So how do you want to spend your time? So you asked me about being a managing director. I deliberately have to choose where I spend my time. Yeah, because you can't be everything to everyone, because you'll then not give enough to yourself or to your husband and to your family. So you've got to make these decisions. You've got to as you grow up.
So true. So what advice do you have for future women in business and media?
This is their time. We've been so lucky as women that phenomenal women have paved the way for now. Network, support each other, care for each other, and just go for it. This is your time. Be entrepreneurial. Join great network groups. Educate yourself. Put yourself out there and own your space and do it well.
I feel, I don't know what it is, but I do feel that. And as a male, I do feel that
there's a movement.
It is just there's a sense of power now that around females, and that I wholeheartedly hope that leads to much more opportunity and so on. But you're just right. I feel there is a sense of power around.
Yeah. Use the power for good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah. And then don't apologise. Own your space. You've worked too hard for too long to get here. Now own it.
That's the truth. Okay, so I actually this is not going to be there. This is a new question. Okay, so but I did switch. This is the last one, and I did switch it in last minute. But what is the most important trait to be a great leader, and why?
I think integrity. I think when I look at leaders that I've worked with, when you have this sense of responsibility of people that are reporting into you and that are looking at you every single day. They're watching you, they're listening to you. They're watching you even when you don't know they're watching you, and listening to you even when you're making a passing comment. I think you've got to have great integrity as a person. I think great integrity shows great role modelling. So I think having,
So what does integrity mean to you then?
I think being honest, being true to your word. Being a good person.
Staying true to yourself?
Being true to yourself. Being somebody that, you'd be proud of being.
It's a good question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a good question. If there was only one.
No, sorry, the question I meant is, are you proud of who you are? Like, I feel like that's such a powerful question to ask yourself. Like, it's a yes or no answer, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And if no, why? If yes, why?
Yeah. I don't think you can underestimate as a leader just how on show you are every single day.
Oh,
and
people just, we are observing creatures, and as a leader, you are under the microscope, and not because someone's going to tell you off. It's actually the opposite. It's because, if it's okay for my leader to do it, then it's okay for me to do it.
Absolutely. So what are you role modelling? Yeah, what behaviours are you role modelling? So what does integrity look like, in the workplace? Do you follow through on your word? Are you honest with your word? Are you true? How do you show up every single day? I think that's what's important for when I think about what I want to look like in front of my team. I'd like them to look at me and think, I'd like to be like that. I want to be like that. I think we've all been with leaders that haven't shown that integrity, that haven't, I think that's the other part about leadership, is that when you look to a leader, you want to make sure that they've got your back. You want to make sure that you've got that there's this kind of really safe, secure environment that they've created for you. That it's a really, that there's psychological safety that you've created and that falls under integrity for me as well too. That is a really safe space.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing as well. Like, I feel like, I don't know what the right term is. I'm going to use refractory period in the result of that. Like what you did, how you led 6 months ago will probably show up in 2 weeks. If there's an issue, or if and I think you can learn a lot from that. Like something. I just feel like there is this kind of period of time where I guess it stresses the importance to always be asking that question of yourself. Like, no matter what you're going through, it's easy to get distracted, but keep asking that question, because you're going to feel the effects of however you're leading, or however you led in the future. So super powerful.
Well, you see it immediately, because you see it in teams. You see it when they're all sitting around a table and nobody's talking. You see it when they leave and all talk. You see poor leadership straight away. And you see the result that has on the team, and you see the disempowerment of the team, the disengagement of the team. You can see it straight away. Yeah, it's not what they say; it's what they don't say.
Yeah, 100%. Al, I want to say a massive thank you for coming on the show again. Absolutely brilliant. I think, look, you're someone that I look up to massively, and I'm so appreciative of your time. Like, I understand how busy you are and the mission that you're on. So the fact that you can spare this time for our audience, but also myself, is something that I appreciate greatly. So a massive thank you to you, and obviously good luck with everything, and not that you'll need it. I know that you'll be able to run with it, but again, a massive thank you.
Carl, thank you so much, and you should be so proud of what you've achieved here. You're doing really, really great stuff, so thank you very much. Thank you for having me a second time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
And to everyone who tuned in. A massive thank you to you guys. I can't tell you how much your support means to us. It allows us to do more of it, which is great. And to John, thank you for putting this together, and Amber, thank you so much for making exactly making this happen. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.